Meanwhile, a group of ANC members marched to Luthuli House today. The group, led by Luthuli House, wants Ramaphosa to step down. Other demands include a solution to the rolling blackouts as well as a salary hike for public servants. Let's unpack some of these political developments of this morning, of today, with the analyst Sandile Swana. Sandile, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Just your thoughts first before we talk about that march that happened, or that mini protest by some ANC members against Ramaphosa. He seems to have been on form today when he was addressing the 15th Congress of the South African Communist Party. I mean, speaking about all sorts of things, including the latest scandal that he's facing about his Phala Phala farm. What was your take on how he came across and the message?
Yes, I think he has had to summon a lot of courage lately, because he is under heavy fire. Make no mistake, he's under heavy fire. And I say that because, number one, when you start to hear people like Mavuso Msima saying that Ramaphosa would do well to step aside, who have not been known to be supporters of Zuma or any of the corruption that has been going on in South Africa, but instead have opposed it. So that sort of thing becomes a serious challenge when the DA and others who are not part of the RET forces are challenging him on his own ethical, or rather unethical conduct, etc., etc. So he's got to come to the party. Psychologically, he's got to come to the party and try to give the impression that is equal to the task in front of him.
But then we saw some members challenging his presidency, saying that they were going to march and protest outside Luthuli House earlier today. The likes of Luthuli House, remember him, and going out there today and saying they want to see action against Ramaphosa. Anything to read from that?
The main thing to read from the march that was organized by Luthuli House and Company is that the RET forces, or the RET forces, and whatever fight back, no matter what name you give to it, is alive. And the WhatsApp messages that we got about this march were so particular that this is a march by only ANC members. So they didn't want any member of the public joining the march or anything. It was an exclusive affair to say this is a group that is protesting against Ramaphosa and certain ANC leaders, and also certain failures in government that they have identified. So there is resistance, and I must add, justifiable resistance. Luthuli House is a loose cannon in the ANC. He's got many colors, but we must not say that means he cannot ever in his life raise a parliament.
Yes, and I saw some reports earlier of Gwede Mantashe apparently dismissing this protest. And but are we likely to see more similar types of actions by disgruntled ANC members, those who are not in the Ramaphosa camp, as we get closer and closer to December?
Closer and closer to December and beyond. Bear in mind that this situation is actually becoming more complex now. The RET forces are no longer the only force that is protesting against Ramaphosa. I believe that if I was Ramaphosa, I would have had a chilling warning from Julius Malema of the EFF, and the statements made also by Steenhuisen of the DA seem to signal that there's a bit of annoyance, really, with the conduct around stuffing money into furniture and other things like that. So Cyril Ramaphosa himself on his own has disappointed many people, but at the same time, the ANC has driven home its long record of non-performance with the rolling blackouts, power blackouts, stage 6 load shedding, and so on. So people are generally annoyed all over the show. This is like the USA during the time of Jimmy Carter. This is like the USA during the time of the Malays that Jimmy Carter spoke about back in '79.
So this courage that was apparent when he was addressing the 15th Congress of the SACP just a few hours ago this morning, the level of boldness where he says, I will not be bullied out of office because of anything that I'm accused of having done in Phala Phala Farm, might have come too late, might be too little or too late for him to save him from the rising voices of saying that maybe he should step aside, because they're coming even from within the ANC veterans.
That is the difficulty. This last part that you've mentioned is probably the most tedious part, because when non-partisan people start challenging a sitting president, if he says anything to go by, he is on his way out. And another thing about this issue of corruption and even other things like the power blackouts, the opposition parties have been leading the way in some of these fights. I mean, Mmusi Maimane led the fight against corruption in the presidency in South Africa. And Jacob Zuma was just as bold in being forcing himself to stay on as president of South Africa. So this bold face of an ANC president is nothing new. But unfortunately, the presidency of Ramaphosa has been characterized by long-term non-performance, poor performance on top of poor performance.
Yeah, and just talking about long-term performance, he said, for example, the problems of Eskom go back 15 years. And then you wonder, why have they not sorted them out? If Eskom has been in distress for 15 years, you could have done something in year 5 maybe, or even year 6 to save the status quo. But now they're calling for Eskom 2, a second state-owned power utility.
That I was stunned by that. I cannot understand it, and you know, this is the thing that even Padili Hutla has mentioned before, that these guys try to solve a problem that did not exist. Our problem was never that Eskom was state-owned or privately owned or anything. You just needed to continue running Eskom well. Eskom was a well-beating institution in the way that it was, and the comrades introduced crime into it. Now they want to start another one, and they tried a similar thing, if you like, with SAA, which has not yet taken off, etc., etc. So these are all wild ideas that are going to sustain non-performance and even increase failure in the medium to longer term.
Sandile Swana, thank you very much for your political analysis and insights this hour on Today here on eNCA. As usual, always a pleasure having you.